Tonight, we want a national inquiry. Women diagnosed with a rare type of vaginal cancer following exposure to a now banned pregnancy drug demand answers.
We just need to be taken seriously now. Yeah, these drugs that, they're causing issues, and we want answers.
Also tonight, North Sea future. A new report estimates there are 1 billion more barrels of oil waiting to be extracted from the basin than originally thought. US TV star Jimmy Fallon is treated to some Highland hospitality during his holiday on Royal Deeside. While in sport, an emotional Stephen Presley praises his players after Dundee's first home league win over Celtic in 37 years. I'm Andrea Breimer. This is the STV News at 6, live from Aberdeen. Good evening. Hundreds of women diagnosed with a rare and aggressive type of cancer following exposure to a now banned pregnancy drug are calling for a national inquiry into the scandal. Diethylstilbestrol, or DES, was hailed as a wonder drug and given to hundreds of thousands of women between the 1950s and 80s to prevent miscarriage. But in recent years, it's been linked to a range of fertility problems and rare cancers in their children and even grandchildren. Here's our political reporter, Laura Alderman.
For all of her adult life, Kimberly has suffered from hormonal problems. But after developing a growth in her pelvic area, she knew something wasn't right.
They took a biopsy and the gynaecologist basically said that she hadn't seen anything like that before. And yeah, hearing that from a gynaecologist is really quite shocking. She suspected that it was cancer at that point in time.
The mum of 3, who now lives in Balquhidder, was later diagnosed with clear cell adenocarcinoma, a rare and aggressive type of cancer.
My oncologist basically said that, your cancer is caused by one of 2 ways, either the human papillomavirus or a drug that your mother would have been given. But he said that I don't have to worry about that one.
Having had vaccinations for HPV, everything then pointed towards a now banned drug Kimberly says her grandmother took while pregnant with her mum, diethylstilbestrol, or DES. It was given to hundreds of thousands of women from the 1940s to 80s to prevent miscarriage. Hailed as a wonder drug at the time, it's now become a medical nightmare. Studies linked it to cancer, infertility, early menopause and other health complications in the women who took it and their children.
There's just this need for our voices to be heard. These drugs that, they're causing issues, and we want answers.
With scant medical records from the time, most women at risk are reliant on information passed down from parents and carers. Specialists say there's a lack of awareness of the drug in the medical community too.
It's not only the gynecology field. I think any healthcare professional should have awareness about this, being such an important medication causing those risks. At the moment, we know, yes, the risks are heightened, but they are overall still low. So therefore, allowing mass screening still, is, I think we may be far off from that, but certainly on an individual level, if they are aware that there is a specific history or if they have any symptoms, I think they should be proactive to come and see a healthcare professional for screening.
The Scottish Government says it relies on advice from the UK National Screening Committee. Now a new campaign group, DES Justice, are demanding redress for what they say is historic medical misogyny.
We need to know what the government knew and when and why. We already know that the Medicines Health Regulator has told lies about what they knew and letters they say they issued when in fact that wasn't the case. That's not okay. So for me, the only way to get to the root cause of what's really going on here is a statutory inquiry, which will mean that there are criminal sanctions and that will give some teeth to any investigation going forward.
After 5 weeks of chemotherapy, Kimberly was recently given the all clear. But the experience has cast a shadow on her life, leaving behind a toxic legacy. Laura Alderman, STV News, Balquhidder.
Now, its future is often debated, but new figures show the North Sea contains 1 billion barrels of oil more than previously estimated. That's according to a report from a UK government body, but comes against the backdrop of a ban on new drilling licences. The Energy Secretary announced they want to create 400,000 new jobs in green energy across the UK. Oliver Wright reports.
The oil and gas sector has faced continued uncertainty over the last few years. The windfall tax, paired with the Labour government's ban on new drilling licences, has shaken investor confidence, and with that comes concern for jobs. But new estimates from the regulator have shown the North Sea could still yield 15.8 billion barrels of oil and gas, more than 1 billion above previous estimates.
It's almost 48 billion barrels already produced from the North Sea. It's been a tremendous success story. But what they also outlined potentially is another 25% to go. There's another significant amount of volume out there. And so actually, although it's a declining basin, it's not a diminishing basin. It's not gone yet. There's a lot of potential in there, lots of jobs there, a lot of potential reserves on our doorstep. And we shouldn't forget, we're still producing over 1 million barrels a day.
That increased estimate comes as the Department for Energy Security announced a plan to create 400,000 green jobs across the UK. Ministers are hopeful that the announcement will reassure those concerned for their jobs in oil and gas here.
We've had promises in the past from previous governments that building renewables means jobs in Scotland, and it hasn't actually. It's meant building things overseas and towing them into Scottish waters without the jobs. So alongside this plan is the industrial strategy that backs it up, and crucially also the investment.
But despite the reassurances from the government, others are far from convinced.
Ed Miliband continues to oversee thousands of job losses in this city as a result of his policies clamping down on the oil and gas sector, preventing investment and ultimately putting at risk our energy security and the ability to deliver that energy transition that he wants to see, I want to see, and I think everyone in this city wants to see, because it will give us decades of good, secure jobs.
The energy sector has been the backbone of the economy in the North East for decades. The debate on transitioning to renewables over the last few years has meant for many in the industry the future is uncertain. While announcements on new green jobs will be welcome for those in the sector, the position on new drilling licences remains. All eyes will now be on the Chancellor's budget next month, and if any changes to the windfall tax are to come. Oliver Wright, STV News.
The owner of an Inverness care home has been fined nearly £2 million after a resident choked to death. HC1 Limited was appearing at Inverness Sheriff Court to admit insufficient care and supervision was given to Margaret Campbell at the Cradle Hall care home in 2022, which has since closed. The court heard the company had a staffing crisis at the time, largely due to COVID, and the client offered its deepest sympathies to the 96-year-old's family. CalMac's winter timetable has begun today, but services to some West Coast communities remain limited. The Caledonian Isles has returned to service after a multi-million-pound repair that took nearly 2 years. But islanders say they still feel silenced. Well, Finlay is in the newsroom for us tonight. And Finlay, the timetable's changing, but the frustration of islanders is certainly not.
No, Andrea, certainly not. Firstly, on the timetable, there are obviously vessels undergoing maintenance, but there are concerns from islanders in Islay and Mull. They're relying solely on the Finlagan, while the Isle of Islay ferry is delayed in Turkey, although it's expected to be delivered as early as next month. With that, of course, will come more services for those on Islay, hopefully beginning very soon. The other good news is that, as you said, the Caledonian Isles has returned to service. Now, it was out of action since January last year, and its repairs have cost a staggering £11.6 million. But ultimately, the main gripe of islanders is that they seem to have very little say in ferry operations. In fact, quite simply, they feel that no one is listening.
We had lots of assurances from the Minister that things would be better. It would be regarded as a service rather than as a contract, and the community would have more say. And the Minister has promised us that it's to be regarded as a lifeline service, as it's ticketed as. But again, it's controlled by Central Belt, so it'll always be run as if it's a nice to have rather than the essential service it should be.
Now, John Daniel's concerns come after the sole islander on the board of CMAL, which is the publicly owned body which owns ferries, ports and harbours, is no more. It was reported that Murdo McLaren had made a complaint about the fact that 2 civil servants based in Edinburgh were invited to the launch of 2 ferries, the Lochmore and Claymore, and that no islanders were. The support for him to remain on the board as a director was then withdrawn. Now, CMAL thanked Mr McLaren for his time and in a statement have reassured islanders that the process is now underway to appoint an island representative to replace him. Meanwhile, the Scottish Government say that island communities have already contributed to the development of the latest contract and that will continue in order to provide a more reliable and robust service.
All right, thanks for that, Finlay. The families of those killed in the Chinook helicopter crash on the Mull of Kintyre more than 30 years ago are preparing to hand in a petition to Downing Street calling for a public inquiry. The Chinook Justice Campaign's petition has been signed by more than 47,000 people. 25 intelligence officers and 4 crew were killed when the helicopter crashed en route from Northern Ireland to Fort George near Inverness in June 1994. A man has died and 2 others have been taken to hospital following a crash in Angus. Emergency services were called to the A92 near Inverkeeler around 5:40 yesterday afternoon. The 22-year-old male driver of a Renault car was pronounced dead at the scene. The passenger, an 18-year-old woman, and the 66-year-old male driver of a Nissan were taken to Ninewells Hospital. Police are appealing for witnesses. A Dundee drug dealer has been ordered to pay back £12,000 despite making more than £800,000 from his life of crime. At the High Court in Edinburgh, Jonathan Wales faced a proceeds of crime action. The 37-year-old used mobile app EncroChat to speak to dealers in Glasgow and to try and keep his involvement in serious organised crime from the authorities. His cover was blown after Dutch and French law enforcement agencies cracked the network's encryption. Prosecutors warned that further assets could be seized if any are identified in the future. Volunteers that look after a remembrance garden in Brechin say they're disappointed that 2 war memorial benches have been vandalised. The ornate steel seats have been damaged sometime between Thursday afternoon and Friday morning. The poppies and a cross were bent or snapped off. The cost of the damage isn't known, but it's hoped the benches can be repaired. They were unveiled 8 years ago to commemorate those from the area who served and died at war.
So it's very disappointing because when we took over this area, we made it into a memorial garden purely because we wanted a reason for doing it. And there actually was a lad called David Cowie, who was a soldier in the First World War, and his cottage had just been where the bench is. He fought in the First World War but died on his way home.
Now, since the Middle Ages, students at St Andrews University have come together for the annual Raisin Monday celebrations. And, well, they found themselves in a bit of a lather this morning as the renowned foam fight took place, marking the start of the academic year. With more, here's Saul Sivright.
A sea of foam erupted at St Andrews University today. Beneath it, first-year students preparing to embark on the next chapter of their lives.
I know that it's quite a long-standing tradition for St Andrews. I believe it's called raisin because it was tradition to give a pound of raisins to your academic parents. Yeah, it's pretty fun though.
You're in amongst everyone, like people you wouldn't usually speak to, and you're like throwing foam in their face. What can you do?
We love it.
It's a rather odd tradition, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's fun because no other unis do it. Yeah, it's original.
This event is seen as a rite of passage. It's Scotland's oldest university, a way of welcoming first-year students onto campus. But where the shaving foam originates from, well, nobody is entirely sure. Raisin Monday marks the end of a long weekend where older students known as academic parents help newcomers settle into university life. There are quirky costumes, playful challenges and plenty of opportunities to form new friendships.
I knew that there was something with academic families and a bit of shaving foam. I didn't think it'd be this much shaving foam.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is.
Did you know much about Raisin Monday before coming to St Andrews?
No.
Was it quite a shock when the shaving foam came out?
A little bit. When the masses
of kids were here and they're throwing foam.
It's
That's
sold
all.
out. It's
yeah,
sold out.
We need to bulk order about 20 things of shaving foam.
As the clean-up begins and the foam is washed away, these freshers leave with memories of a tradition they're unlikely to forget. Saul Sivright, STV News.
Now, it's hard to believe it, but it is that time of year again. The Panto is back at His Majesty's Theatre in Aberdeen with Cinderella. Scottish stars Joe McFadden and Dawn Steele will be starring in this year's fairy tale. Rehearsals are underway as the cast prepare for their first show at the end of November.
They can expect magic and love and great singing and loads of laughs. That's the great thing about doing pantos. You look out into the audience and you see sometimes 3 generations in a family all laughing at the same jokes, all singing along and making their Christmas a little bit more special. It's such a kind of magical thing to do, and really important as well, because for a lot of people it's the first time that they'll come to the theatre. It certainly was for me when I was younger, and you know, if we do our job right, it means that they'll hopefully come back.
From my point of view, I think you can expect a lot of magic, a lot of fairy dust. But I have just read the script quite recently. We're about to start rehearsals, and I was actually laughing out loud when I was on the train reading it. It really made me laugh. So I think you can expect a lot of magic, a lot of laughs and a lot of fun.
What more could you ask for? Well, it's time now for sport with Stefan. What a time to be a Dundee fan.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
A very good evening to you. Yes, Dundee boss Stephen Presley says he couldn't be prouder of his players after their first home win over Celtic since 1988. The Dark Blues ran out 2-0 winners over the Parkhead club at Dens Park yesterday. Well, Fraser Nicol was there.
The full-time celebrations weren't just for any win. In the shock of the season so far, Dundee had beaten Celtic. It was the first time at home in 37 years.
Well, we're proud of it because I reel off a lot of statistics to the players. You know, we went to Ibrox and gained the first point there in 24 years. You know, at Pittodrie last week we hadn't won there in 21 years. I think we go to Hibernian where it's 20 plus years again. There's a lot of statistics, and that's why I'm saying to you, playing for Dundee is a struggle. It's a struggle, so we have to enjoy these moments. There's no doubt about it, you know, and I'm sure the players will, because the last couple of weeks have been difficult.
The win follows a fair amount of soul-searching over the last couple of weeks, after the Dark Blues' 4-0 defeat away at Aberdeen. But this was a much improved Dundee performance. On 18 minutes, they opened the scoring from a set piece. Clark Robertson losing his marker to head home the corner, getting their noses out in front. And just before half-time, a counter-attack would double their advantage. Congreve's square ball from the byline found Joe Westley, who forced the own goal from Cameron Carter-Vickers.
I think we've got to take a lot of belief from this game. If we produce a performance like that, we're capable of beating anyone on a day. So, like I say, we probably made it ugly at times, but I think we played football when we needed to in the right areas. And like I say, I think just in the dressing room we were just wanting to make it horrible for them, and I think we did that, yeah.
The result draws the D's level on points with Rangers and St Mirren, as well as Falkirk, who they face next week. Presley's emotion was palpable post-match, but he put that down to pride in his players than any feeling of vindication.
You took a wee bit of stick at the start of the season when you came in.
A little bit.
And said, you know, the line about, I know your man. A lot of Dundee fans will think you are the man tonight.
I've still not won anything. You know, 9 points gets you relegated, so there's a lot of hard work ahead.
Fraser Nicol, STV Sport.
I think he's a happy man anyway. Well, Rangers have appointed Danny Roll as their new head coach on a deal until 2028. The German succeeds the sacked Russell Martin at Ibrox. It comes after Rangers were held to a 2-2 draw by Dundee United on Saturday. Rangers fans once again made their feelings clear at Ibrox after Dundee United held them to a 2-2 draw. Danny Roll looks set to be tasked with turning fortunes around, with the former Sheffield Wednesday boss poised to take over the reins at Ibrox after talks with Kevin Muscat collapsed. United stepped into the unknown on Saturday with Rangers under-18s manager Stevie Smith in the home dugout. And it was the hosts that took the lead through Telo Asgard. The Tangerines fought back though, with substitute Christian Trapanovsky getting the leveller. And it looked as if Jim Goodwin's side would claim a memorable victory thanks to a wonder strike from Craig Sibbald. But Rangers captain James Tavernier got the equaliser in the 86th minute. That left United rueing a missed opportunity and Rangers having won just one in 8 matches.
We don't shy away from the fact that we've been in leading positions numerous times this season and not been able to hold on, and that's something that this group needs to get better at, myself included. I think we're probably one of the youngest teams, the youngest squads in the league, and I think there's maybe a little bit of inexperience and naivety at times because we've been leading at home to Rapid Vienna. We were 2-1 up against Hearts, 3-1 up against Hibs at Easter Road, 2-1 up here today. We've left a lot of points out there, and the league table could look a whole lot different had we been able to manage those situations better.
Aberdeen manager Jimmy Tilleen hopes the Dons' recent resurgence will serve them well on the European stage later this week. The Pittodrie side left it late to secure a 1-0 victory at St Mirren, Marko Lazetic getting his first goal for the club 6 minutes into stoppage time. It comes as Tilleen's side prepare to head to Greece to take on AEK Athens on Thursday night.
I think in the end, if you keep doing it and do better and better performance, in the end you get what you deserve. So we still have to be better. Some things today we still have to improve. But the way they work for each other and the players who don't start the game and come into the game, that's what we need, this team spirit and the connection with our fans. Our fans have been here every game, even in the start we have without scoring goals or winning points, and also the dramatic end in Motherwell. They still be there every game and supporting. That connection is so important.
Elsewhere, unbeaten Hearts are 5 points clear at the top of the Premiership after their 3-0 demolition of Kilmarnock at Rugby Park. Meanwhile, Hibs were 4-0 winners over Livingston and Motherwell went down 2-1 at home to Falkirk. Into the Championship now, and St Johnstone suffered their first defeat of the season when they went down 3-1 to Arbroath at Gayfield at the weekend. The loss sees Partick Thistle cut the gap on the Championship leaders to 3 points. That's after Partick secured a 1-0 win over Ross County.
Now, after this first loss, so far this is now our biggest challenge, how we can put this out of our mind and concentrate for the next game, how we prepare ourselves, what we do on the training field. Because, as I said it, we have been very, very good. The boys have showed the character, but this is now a totally new challenge. After the first loss, how you can react.
He's the manner of the goal, the way that we lost it, the boy Smith picks up the ball, he's the deepest player for them and he runs through. And there's various opportunities we can prevent that, we can stop it, and we need to take responsibility for that. So that's a disappointing bit in it, and just, it's the overriding feeling. Every game you come into, you want to win. I think we did enough, as you say, in the first half to be in a position where we were on top. And then when it gets scrappy second half, we should just see that out.
Well, that's all the sport from me for tonight. I'll be back with more tomorrow. Do join me then if you can.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Well, let's get the weather forecast now. Philip is here. I can't believe we're almost at the end of October already. What's in store this week?
Well, Andrea, we do have quite a bit going on. Despite low pressure dominating our weather today, it's actually been a fairly settled and reasonable start to the week. Come Thursday, though, we see a deepening area of low pressure moving in from the south of the UK. We're just keeping an eye on that as we're still a bit unsure of its track. But once it pulls away, we'll see a plunge of colder air that's coming in from the Arctic. So it will be feeling a lot colder come Friday and the weekend, with snow likely. But before we start panicking, mainly on just the tops of the hills and the mountains. Let's take a closer look at what's in store. Here is your forecast.
A breezy morning will be followed up with a flurry of fresh delights for lunch. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, as we head through the rest of this evening, most of the overnight showers are staying confined to the very far north and northwest. Here in the east, it's remaining dry overnight. We will see clear skies, so with the clear conditions, temperatures will be dropping. We could also see some mist and fog patches forming, similar to the past couple of nights. Where we've got the clear skies, so temperatures dropping down to lows of around 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. A little further inland, lows of around 9, possibly 10. So looking ahead to tomorrow, the showers that have stayed confined mainly to western parts will start to spread eastwards throughout the course of the morning, and the thicker cloud will move through. So a bit of a murky, damp end to the morning for many of us. Throughout the afternoon, there will be some drier interludes between the showers, but overall it stays cloudy. So temperatures will be down a degree or two compared to today, highs around 12 or 13 degrees Celsius. Looking ahead to Wednesday, we're in between low pressure systems. We've got one just to the north of us, that's what's dominating our weather today and will tomorrow, and another low pressure that's starting to creep in from the south of the UK. So because we're in the middle, it will give us some fairly settled conditions throughout Wednesday. It will remain largely dry, plenty of brighter spells. Any showers that we see will once again mainly be across the southwest, but it will be feeling colder, with temperatures reaching highs of around 11 or 12 degrees. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Finally tonight, US comedian and talk show host Jimmy Fallon has been enjoying a Highland getaway, even donning the kilt. Soldiers hosted a special dinner for him during his holiday on Royal Deeside. A chance encounter led to the King's Royal Guards inviting the Tonight Show host to the officers' mess in Ballater. Oh, to be a fly on the wall there. Here's Callum Clark.
So what do I do? Now, left. He's one of the world's most famous talk show hosts.
You crushed it!
Who has interviewed some of the world's biggest stars.
Right next to Balmoral is the River Dee.
And last week, Jimmy Fallon found himself on a tour of Royal Deeside, where he was spotted by some local soldiers.
We're driving over the bridge over the River Dee, and it was my platoon sergeant who spotted Jimmy. And it was a little bit of a debate. I said, right, let's stop the car. Let's actually double check, see if it is. And so to settle the debate, I got out and just went and had a chat with him.
That conversation culminated in a dinner date at this military barracks in Ballater, where Jimmy was given his very own kilt and enjoyed some karaoke.
Him being of Irish heritage, I thought it would be poignant to return the favour and play a bit of Rattling Bog, have a sing along with him. To my delight, he didn't know many of the words, so we kept him bimbling along through it, which was great to see, and you can see that we had a fair bit of fun during that evening.
And they gave me this beautiful hat, which is a Glengarry. I was so thankful and touched.
Jimmy Fallon has documented his Scottish travels on his TikTok. The Royal Regiment of Scotland says he's welcome back for another slice of Scottish culture. Callum Clark, STV News.
I bet you'll take them up on that too. From all of us here, good night.